Hi everyone, and welcome back. I'm Heather Noble, and today I have an Intro to Angles tutorial featuring this Bunny Love table runner. It's been about a full year since I've recorded a video tutorial. In 2024, I had a really hard year caring for my aging parents, and eventually my mom passed away. So I took several months stepping back away from my crochet business. And I just want to say how much it meant to me that several of you sent words of encouragement and love during that time, and it just meant the world to me, so thank you. I'm back to full-time Mosaic crochet pattern designing now. And in this video, I'll walk you through the 8 angle stitch combination used in this pattern. I'll put the link to the pattern in the description box as well as timestamps so that you can jump to the part of the tutorial that you need. If you're new to angle stitches, you may be wondering how hard they are. And while they are more advanced than the basic single crochet and double crochet mosaic stitches, with a little time and practice, just like anything else, you can master a new skill. I use angle stitches in most of my designs, although I do have about 40 patterns without them. The reason I use angles is because it allows me to have a realistic image rather than a pixelated one. It also allows me to design in a smaller area, so I can have a throw size blanket rather than something larger. And if you've worked with mosaic crochet before, you know that having a double thickness of yarn starts to get very heavy the larger your design gets. I'm so glad you've joined me. Let's get into it. I'm using a weight 4 worsted yarn for this project. I really like how the Lion brand Heartland yarn works with mosaic crochet. I'm using Capital Reef for the pink color and Black Canyon for the black color. If you plan to set hot things on your table runner, you might consider using a cotton rather than acrylic yarn, as it will stand up to heat better. I use smaller hooks than the yarn calls for because I found that they give me the close, dense stitches that I like. You will see that I start with a size H 5mm hook for the foundation chain and row 2. This is because the first 2 rows are all single crochet stitches, which are naturally tighter than double crochet. By going up a hook size for these first 2 rows, I can keep a uniform shape throughout the whole project. Once I get to row 3 where I start adding double crochet stitches, I switch to a G 4mm hook for the rest of the project. I always get questions about the app I use to keep track of rows and stitches. This is called Knit Companion. I use it for everything. It's a game changer for organizing your patterns. I have a separate video that shows my favorite features that I will link in the description box. I found an I-cord foundation chain to be better than a regular chain to start your mosaic crochet project for several reasons. First, it makes the beginning of your project match the last row of your project with 2 loops or a V on top of the stitches. This not only gives you a crisp and polished start to your project, but also gives you a front and back loop on the bottom, which comes in handy for working a front and back border at the end. You need 2 strands of yarn to make an I-cord. From your working yarn, measure 6 inches of your second strand for every 10 stitches, plus 1 extra to have enough for a tail. In this case, I need enough for 109 stitches, so I measured 12 times. When you get to that spot in your yarn, put in a slip knot. Here's my tail, and I'm going to hold onto my working yarn. To make an I-cord stitch, wrap your tail over the top of your hook, then grab your working yarn from underneath and pull it through both loops. Tail over, working yarn through both loops. Tail, working yarn. Tail, working yarn. Continue until you have completed 109 I-cord stitches. I'm finishing up the final 3 stitches of my I-cord foundation chain. And now I need to chain 1 and work a single crochet under both loops of each of the I-cord stitches back down the row. After the last stitch, chain 1 and cut your yarn. Pull the tail through. This completes row 1. Starting in row 2, each row will begin and end with a border stitch. I will be doing a basic border stitch for this tutorial. Start with a slip knot on your hook and make a standing single crochet stitch under both loops of the first stitch. Now make 107 single crochet back loop only stitches. In Mosaic crochet, all single crochet stitches other than the border stitches will be in the back loop only. At the end of row 2, make a border stitch in the last stitch by inserting your hook under both loops, single crochet, chain 1, cut your yarn, and pull the tail through. Now that I've ended row 2, I'm finished with my H hook, and I changed to my smaller G 4mm hook for the rest of the project. You will change colors every row. Change to color B for row 3 and start with a border stitch. The first stitch is a double crochet in the loop 2 rows below. The loop you work into will be the same color as your current row, in this case, pink. There's lots of discussion in the crochet community about how to work the double crochet. Lots of people just work into the loop 2 rows below. This is perfectly fine. It's how I first learned Mosaic crochet, and many of my early projects were made this way. It will leave a ridge or flap on the back side of your work. This bothers some people and others not so much. I prefer to anchor my double crochet stitches by picking up the regular loop 2 rows below and also the front loop of the stitch right above. This pulls the front and back sides of your work together and gets rid of the flap on the back. I've also seen an anchored double crochet every 5 stitches or so. This mostly closes the flap on the back, and it also speeds up the crocheting process. All 3 ways are good. You choose your personal preference. Continue working row 3 with the repeated pattern of 3 single crochets followed by 3 double crochets all the way across the row. The first angle stitch happens in row 6, so complete rows 4 and 5 and I will be back to show you the next step. Welcome to row 6. Start with a border stitch, followed by 3 single crochet stitches. Then we'll reach our first angle. Here you can see that the angle DC1L works into the same loop as the next double crochet. Another way to say this, and the way I write it in the written pattern, is skip 1, DC2 in the next stitch. It means the same thing. I say it differently in the written pattern because there isn't an image to show you that both stitches work into the same loop. You will notice that I don't anchor my angle stitches. This is because it tends to make the tension too tight for the angles and pull too much on the lower loop. Now that I've worked the angle DC1L and the first double crochet into the same loop, I'm ready to continue on with the rest of my double crochet stitches. I've worked across row 6, and at the end we have the opposite angle. The final double crochet and angle DC1R will again work into the same loop. The written pattern will say DC2 in the next stitch, skip 1. Work your double crochet directly below first, and then your angle DC1R into the same loop. Notice the place that angle originates. We don't work into the origin stitch. So your next single crochet is going to skip over that origin stitch and go right here. The next angle appears in row 8. Complete row 7 on your own, and I will be back at row 8. In row 8, we come to a yellow angle decrease 1L stitch. I'm using a stitch marker to mark the place where the stitch starts. I call this the origin stitch. The decrease is a 2-part stitch that starts in the loop directly below the origin stitch and finishes in the loop 1 to the left. Yarn over and insert your hook into the loop 2 rows below. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. This leaves 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and insert your hook into the next loop, 1 to the left. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through all 3 remaining loops. This completes your angle decrease 1L. Now find your stitch marker on the back. We never work into the origin stitch. Put your single crochet in the next stitch to the left of the origin stitch. This is behind the angle, so it's semi-hidden. Now work down the row until you come to the angle decrease 1R. Let's put a stitch marker in our origin stitch. Now let's start the decrease. Always start from the right side. So in this case, you will work the angle part first and then finish with a double crochet in the loop directly below. Yarn over and insert your hook in the loop 1 to the right. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops, leaving 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and insert your hook in the loop directly below your origin stitch. yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the remaining 3 loops. This completes the angled decrease 1R. Finish this row and I'll meet you at row 9. There aren't any angles in row 9, but it can be tricky to place the next row of stitches around the angles you made in row 8. Let's take a look at this first double crochet. The loop you work into is partially hidden by the angle in the previous row. Push the angle back a bit to work into the correct loop. As you continue down row 9 with the rest of the 43 double crochet stitches, you see that the last one works behind the angle going the opposite direction. Again, pull the angle back to find the hidden loop. The next angle we will look at comes in row 12. Finish rows 10 and 11 and meet me back here for row 12. In row 12, we will start with the angle decrease 2R. This is similar to the angle we learned earlier, except we will work the angle 2 stitches to the right instead of 1. Let's place a stitch marker in our origin stitch so we can locate it later. Remember that we work right to left, so we will start this decrease with the angle part and complete it with a straight up and down double crochet, skipping the loop in the middle. Yarn over and insert your hook 2 loops to the right of your origin stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, leaving 2 loops on your hook. Now skip the middle loop, yarn over and insert your hook in the loop directly below your origin stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the 3 remaining loops. This completes your angled decrease 2R. We've already learned the angled decrease 1L, but here's another look if you need a refresher. And here's another look at angled decrease 1R towards the end of row 12. Near the end of row 12, we have an angled decrease 2L. Place a stitch marker in the origin stitch. As we work right to left, this decrease will start with a regular DC in the loop directly below the origin stitch, skip the middle loop, and complete the decrease with the angled 2 stitches to the left. Yarn over and insert your hook directly below the origin stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now skip the middle loop and yarn over and insert your hook into the loop 2 stitches to the left. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the 3 remaining loops. Now look on the back side, find your stitch marker, and work your single crochet stitch to the left of your origin stitch. This will definitely be hidden by the angle, so make sure to use your stitch marker so you find the right stitch. Now let's look at row 13 to see where to place the stitches around the angles we just made. Row 13 starts with 6 double crochet stitches. The first 4 are easy to see. The 5th and 6th double crochet stitches work behind the angle decrease 2R from row 12. Pull the angle back slightly to find the hidden loops behind to work into. At the end of row 13, we will work the final 6 double crochet stitches similarly to how we started the row, but since it's the opposite angle, we will start with the first 2 double crochets behind the angle. The next new angle combination occurs in row 36. We've now covered all the types of angles you will encounter up to that point. Continue working and meet me back here at row 36. If you need a refresher in the meantime, you can find links to the individual stitch tutorials in the description box. In row 36, we come to a cluster of 3 stitches that are all worked into the same loop. In the chart, you see that it's a double crochet followed by an angle DC 1R and then an angle DC 2R. In the written pattern, it's written as DC 3 in the next stitch, skip 2. Remember not to work into the origin stitches. The angles will lay over the top of them. Mark them with stitch markers. Here's the origin stitch for the double crochet. Here's the origin stitch with a stitch marker for the angle DC 1R, and here's the origin stitch for the angle DC 2R. Now I'm going to place all 3 stitches into the same loop. Lay those angled double crochets across the origin stitches and work your single crochet in the first stitch to the left of your stitch marker. Towards the end of row 36, we have the mirror image of the angle cluster. Once again, all 3 of these stitches will work into the same loop. Mark the origin stitches for the 2 angles with stitch markers. Starting with the angle DC2L, count over from the first stitch marker 0, 1, 2, and work your first stitch. We've now addressed all the combinations of angles used in this pattern, so you can complete your project through row 59. Meet back here at row 60. When I first started using an I cord to start my projects, I noticed that the foundation row was bigger than the rest of the rows. It still had the benefits of a more professional finish that I was looking for, but I needed a way to make the first and last rows match. That's when I came up with what I call the finishing row. Don't change colors for this row. Staying with color B, single crochet under both loops of each stitch across. Now your first row and your last row match. This concludes our introduction to angle stitches. I hope you've enjoyed making the Bunny Love Table Runner. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.